Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. How's it going? Good morning. If you're coming from, I guess, close to my side of the world, I am in Las Vegas, but maybe it's good evening for you. Maybe it's good afternoon. Let me know in the comments how you're doing, where you're coming in from, and let's have a good one today. This will be a fun, very interesting topic. I know authentication sometimes sounds a little boring, but I think NextAuth is a really, really cool way to grab and get social authentication with Next.js. And I'll show you how easy it is, how cool it is. Let me pull up the chat. What's up, Miguel from Portugal? What's up, Eric from Brazil? Um, Welcome. Right on. I really want to visit Portugal sometime soon. But yeah, welcome everybody. Today we are going to, let me go through a rundown real quick. We are going to start up a brand new Next.js website, app, whatever you want to call it. Next.js can do it all, right? So if you are a big fan of Next.js, let me know in the comments as well. What's up, Jang? Hello, hello. All right, so let's start pushing through. There's a lot to cover today. What's up, Rodney from Zimbabwe? Yeah, Rodney, what's up? Welcome, welcome. Cool. So what I have here is NextAuth, and the cool thing about NextAuth is they say it's easy, they say it's secure and flexible. You may be wondering, should I use NextAuth? Should I use Auth0, Okta? Should I roll my own, which is a tough thing to do. Right on, Mukesh. Mukesh says Next.js is what they use now. Leonard, awesome. What's up? Cool. So this is exactly the setup for NextAuth right here. And I know it sounds simple. There's just like one file over here and one file over here. But let's get into it and see how we can work it. We are going to go to our documentation real quick. And I have a brand new Next.js application. We are going to run the dev script to get this started. Hey, Kyle. Welcome, welcome. All right, so now that we have that, I'm going to split this out to the left a little bit. I have Chrome over here. Chrome's like a memory hog today. And then we'll go to localhost to 3000. Super zoomed in. Okay, so let me show you how easy it is to set up NextAuth.js. And let's see, it's 3 minutes into the hour right now, and we can probably get this done in pretty quickly. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to the Next docs, and I know you probably don't want to just watch me go through the docs. I promise this will be over quick. What we do is introduction. The cool thing is that you own your own data in Next.js. So Auth0, all of your users are stored in their database, in their servers. With NextAuth, all of your data, all of your users are yours to manage. So what I mean by that is you can bring a DigitalOcean database, whether it be MySQL, Postgres, they have it down here, MariaDB, SQL Server, MongoDB, which we just launched, by the way, MongoDB on DigitalOcean, SQLite. And there's also support for third-party like FaunaDB. Let's go look at the database adapters. Fauna, there's Firebase, there's Dynamo. So really flexible in the ways that you can configure it. What's up, Love Cash? Tarun, good evening to you as well. Samuel from Nairobi, welcome. Shanghai from Cambodia, welcome. I love it. Welcome, welcome, everybody. All right, this is cool. I was, to be honest, I'm a little nervous about this one because it is authentication. It's such a touchy subject, and you always want to get authentication correct. So I appreciate you all showing up in chat and showing some love. I am a little nervous, but let's keep pushing. So the example code they have here is the setup code. And let me show you how cool this is. It's one file to set up NextAuth. And that's this pages/API/auth/ this weird syntax right here, .js. And I'll show you what that means. Alex, thank you. Welcome, welcome. So what I'll show you what this means. I'm going to copy that right there. And I'm going to go over here to Pages, API, and I'll create a new file. I'll go auth slash NextAuth.js. And that is a weird syntax, but let me explain what that is. Auth 0. Next.js calls this a catch-all route. So this route right here, if you know Next.js, the routing is based on your folder and file structure. So this route right here would be /API/auth/, and what's cool is this catch-all route can say, well, you can pass in login and I'll understand it. You can pass in logout and I'll understand it. You can pass in register and I'll be good. And then also callback is the other one that is going to be good. So in the world of authentication, especially for social auth, the flow goes like this. Basically, user clicks sign in. User is redirected to, let's say GitHub is going to be the first social auth. This is the first one we're going to do. So the user clicks sign in. They go over to GitHub. The user authenticates with GitHub or whatever social you have. And then GitHub says, okay, let me check your credentials. Are you good? Are you not? And then user is sent. Check that out. This is GitHub Copilot giving me auto completion, and it's true. So the user is then redirected back to the API/auth/callback route. And then your application says, oh, you authenticated correctly through GitHub. Let me go ahead and store your information, log you in, all that good stuff. So this is the flow of how NextAuth works. And this is what we're going to see pretty soon. So this right here, the setup is I'm going to paste in the code that they had from the beginning, from their docs. And really, all in all, the setup looks like this. You could get away with just, let me show you this right here. So we have NextAuth, and then it's a providers array. And this array is the number of providers that you want to provide. So let's say you had GitHub, but let's say you had Google, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll show you right here. If we go back to authentication providers in the docs, this is the absolute number of authentication providers you can do. There's even Basecamp, Battle.net, and the ones you expect: Facebook, GitLab, GitHub, Google, Twitter, all that good stuff. So to do this, let's go to the GitHub one. Where is GitHub? I don't know my alphabet anymore. There we go. We need two things. We need a client ID and a client secret. And both of these we go get from GitHub itself. So if you've done authentication, what's up, Ruthie? Welcome, welcome. If you've done authentication, most of the time, the hard part of authentication when you're using like stuff like NextAuth and Auth 0 isn't really the setup. One of the annoying things is going to go get your credentials. So here we have GitHub. We have to go get a GitHub ID and GitHub secret. And the thing about the NextAuth docs is they don't really show you how to do it. So this is a trial and error thing that you just have to get used to working in authentication. We'll go to github.com/settings/apps, but I don't really want to click it. I want to show you where it is so you like mentally know how confusing it is to get to. So here I am in GitHub. Over on the top right, you go into your settings down here. And then down here, it's all this stuff. You would think maybe it's under applications. Nope, it's under developer settings. And then you have your GitHub apps right here. So now you can create an app and then use it to authenticate users. And let me know if I'm moving too fast, or if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. And as always, this will be recorded and put up on the DigitalOcean YouTube channel after this. So I'm going to create a new GitHub app. And this is actually relatively easy compared to the other authentication providers. Just wait till you see Google's. That thing's a doozy. So GitHub app name, we'll call it Hi Theo. You can write the description for your app and all that stuff. Homepage right now is going to be localhost 3000. We're working locally, and then you could probably call this like local. And then down here, identifying and authorizing users. So this is that callback URL. GitHub needs to know where to send users back to. So that'll be http github.com/api/auth/callback/GitHub. And the reason I know that is it's coming from the NextAuth docs. Somewhere in here is how you configure the callback. All right, so give me 2 seconds. So now that we have the callback set up, we go down here, post installation. We don't have anything happening here. We don't need webhooks. This is a great way to, let's say, as soon as a user logs in, you can hit an API, maybe track some stats, set up their account and stuff like that. But we don't need to here. Yes, Mukesh, you are right. Callback should be localhost. You are right. Sorry. Good call. That saved us a good amount of time on debugging. Cool. So localhost 3000, it's getting sent back to our local application. And then down here, this is where it's cool. Your app can only have specific permissions. So this is really helpful, especially because GitHub, you don't want to authenticate an app and let it go and do your actions, do administration on, let's say, your issues. Maybe you do. But when you're authenticating through Google, make sure you always know what the app is asking for. For our app, let's say we wanted it to be able to manage projects. There's a ton that you can break down. Members and stuff, we don't ever, well, for our application, we're not going to be managing members or their GitHub plan or anything like that. User permissions, maybe we can manage a user's email addresses and see that. That isn't required to see the logged in user address. So we don't need that one. We'll just leave this as, let's just go grab the profile. And then let's click create GitHub app. We have our client ID right here. And now let's generate a new client secret. And now we have this right here. So after this tech talk, I'm going to delete these things. But the cool thing is that this didn't really have any permissions, right? Like it didn't have access to update repos, delete repos, anything like that. So I'll go ahead and copy this client ID. And we don't want to put this directly into this file because this is in source control. So we'll create a new .env.local. So GitHub ID is equal to that. And GitHub secret is equal to, we'll come back over, copy this thing right here, paste there. Okay, so we have that now. And our next auth is going to pull that in. So that should be good. Let's see if we can actually log a user in now. That's all it took for setup is this one file and 2 variables. Eamon with the question, should we store the secrets in HashiCorp Vault or some other cloud key store? You could. I think that might be a little strong of a solution. What you could do is just put it in environment variables, store it as encrypted in your environment variables, and I think that's solid enough. Miguel, yeah, good question. Would that work well for local development? It would probably take some setup, definitely more setup than an environment file is. But, it all depends on your projects. Okay, so Set up Next.js. We set up our client ID, client secret. We need to restart our server because we have new environment variables. And let's go into index.js. Let me just hide all of this. We don't need the boilerplate. Okay, so this is all we need. We don't need all that fancy stuff that Next.js gives us. And then let's start working with this so that we can add NextAuth. So we've installed NextAuth. We have set it up. Next up is, oh, I'm sorry. I'm missing one thing out of our environment variables. We need to set up NextAuth URL. And Brian with a fantastic point right here. We should go into our gitignore and make sure that that .env is not committed to source control to GitHub. And the cool thing about Next.js's default gitignore is that it already has down here, these files are in the gitignore, which is interesting because there's not a normal .env. So Next.js definitely says, hey, you should probably use env.local instead of env. Eamon says, I think we can have conditional on production. Yes, you absolutely could. Down here, you could do like a process.env. Node environment, all right, is equal to that, or a ternary to grab something else, right? But yeah, definitely a totally viable solution there. Where was I? Index.js. Let's go set up this thing right here. And let me show you how to use authentication here. So we're going to import sign in from next-auth/client. And the way that we do this is we also have to grab a React hook called use session. And now let me show you how cool this is. Const session loading is equal to use session. And now the user is stored in session as const user is equal to session.user. So just like that, we're able to go grab the user's information with this one React hook. Really nice there. And next up, let's actually create a button that does a login. So we'll say GitHub Copilot is so good. Look at this. It's just giving me the code we need. But it is docked for points because it did Google and not GitHub. So this is the sign in. On click, we do that function called sign in that came from this import. And that should be good enough. So we'll save that. We'll go to our app, localhost. Can't resolve NextAuth. Oh, I didn't install NextAuth. Come on, Chris. Let's do npm I next-auth. That should have been step 1, right? All right, so let's install NextAuth. And while that's there, npm run dev again. And here we go. Everybody, fingers crossed. We want a GitHub login here. Okay, so we have hi, everyone. And then I'll click sign in. And check it out. We got this nice login page from NextAuth. We didn't even have to set it up or create the buttons or anything. And you can style this yourself if you want, but this is the default styling. And I'll click sign in with GitHub. It takes us over to GitHub. It says hi DO local is the name of our app by the person that created the app. And here are the permissions. These are the default ones, right? If you verify that you're yourself, act on your behalf. And then the only thing that it can do is manage a user's profile settings. So what I'm going to do here is authorize hi DO local. And now we're logged in, but nothing is going to show because we haven't shown anything yet. So let me go do that. Let me move some things around. Um, okay. So let's go over here and let's just console.log this user right here. And let's see what happens. We have an object. There's the email, which is the personal email I'm using on GitHub, and my user image and my name. So let's go ahead and use the image and name here. So down here, I'll just say user.image, but it needs to be an image source is equal to, and we'll do an H2, H1. All right, let's go check that out. There we go, image, but let's put a width on it. Width is equal to maybe 200, too big, 50. There we go. So we have image, name, and the sign in button, which shouldn't be there anymore. So let's remove that. But how cool is this, right? We were able to add GitHub logins all in, I mean, we're at 20 minutes right now, and all in one file and a couple settings. So let's go back to index.js. We're going to grab sign out as well as sign in. And then down here, we're going to say only show all this stuff if there is a user. And then if there is no user, finish typing that. There we go. If there is no user, then we have a sign in button. If there is a user, then we're going to need the log out button. And there we go. And this is just Next.js's ESLint saying, hey, you should use the Next.js image component, which is fine here. How do you know what user info you have available right now? Since we didn't provide any extra authentication stuff, it just had that information that we console logged right here. But to get more information, where's the next docs? Not that one. That one. Sorry, I can't see my tab, so I'm like, I have to click around. Where is it in here? Sorry, I can't remember where it is, but in here there is a way to like see what each provider provides you. But the cool thing about NextAuth is that it standardizes a lot of that, so you'll at the very least get this stuff right here. So now we have the sign out button. Let's click sign out. There's an error here. Cannot read property user of undefined. So it did log us out, but the problem is over here. This doesn't exist. So we'll do like that right there. Okay, so that solved everything. So we have, hey, everyone, sign in. Click that. Sign in with GitHub. And it already remembered that we signed in, so we don't have to click anything on the GitHub side, and then just sent us back. And then we'll click sign out. Super slick. And then a trick that I want you to know is if you just have one sign-in option like GitHub, you could just say GitHub right here, and it will go ahead and go straight to GitHub instead of, well, it should have. Come here. Okay, maybe that changed. But yeah. So the next step to authentication that you might be wondering is, okay, well, now that we're authenticated, how do we hide and show resources based on if a user is authenticated? So we can do that by going into let's create another file over here, and we'll call this dashboard.js. Mukesh is finding all of my typos. Dashboard should only be for logged in users. Okay, so here's our dashboard page, and Daniel and Mukesh have found my error in that other example. Yeah, I put it in sign out. Come on, Chris. So let's put that down here, and let's prove that I'm not making up random things. Sign out here. And fingers crossed, sign in, go straight to GitHub. Check it out. Didn't even need to have that secondary screen. It just logged us in and sent us all the way back. So let's go ahead and right now we can go to this dashboard page. Dashboard should only be for logged in users, but I was able to get here even though I'm not logged in. So how do we block somebody from logging in to a page? We can go into this dashboard.js, and just like we did from the index.js, we can import use session and get session. Use import from NextAuth/client. And then down here, we can, if use that hook session loading is equal to use session. And then if no session, if not loading and no session, we can return a redirect, which to do a redirect, you would go get const router from use router. And then down here, you could like return router.redirect. I'm forgetting what that syntax is. Let's see, push, I think it is. Router.push or replace, one of the two. There we go. So that's a way that you can block somebody from getting to a dashboard route or some other route. And Mukesh, I love this. You're like giving the pointers. What is that? Wrong import. Mukesh is giving the correct pointers and questions as they come up. This is perfect. So the problem with this setup is this is client-side authentication, which means you're checking to see if a user is authenticated after they already got to the page. So you sent them all of the payload and the data for dashboard.js and then checking, which is a problem because they shouldn't even be able to get to this section at all. So to do this, in Next.js, there's export async function, get server side props. And everything inside of here, disregard Copilot. Sabine is absolutely correct. Get server side props is the way to do it in Next.js. I love the chat. Everybody's just like guiding me along so I don't have to do as much work. This is fantastic. But yeah, you're all authentication experts in chat, so this is great. Get server side props is the way to do it. So use session is going to be a client side hook. NextAuth also comes with a server side hook called get session. So these are the two hooks that you need to know about NextAuth is use session is client side and get session is server side. And that's the surface of its API. It's really simple to use. So down here, we'll say const session is equal to await get session, and then you're going to pass in the context. So from the context, from getting everything from the request, it'll go ahead and be able to authenticate us. And then you can return props session. And then up here, I no longer need this use session. I can just delete that. I don't need this router stuff. I can delete all that. I can delete that, and pull in the session here. Now const user is equal to session.user. You're wondering, hey, Chris, where is the redirect happening? Like, is it going to redirect us? Let's go see. If we go to /dashboard now. Well, that happened again, so let's do that. Interesting. Hold on. So the authentication happens server side here. One thing you can do is do a redirect here. But what's interesting is the docs actually say you should do it like this. If session turn protected info here. I'm just going to copy Sabin's code over here. So the redirect is here. If no session, it's like that. Turn a redirect to the login page. Super cool. And then up here, this is what they wanted to do. I'm not the biggest fan of this setup, right? Because you're still getting to the actual component itself, which is what we're trying to avoid. So let's just not do that. And I put an extra one there. What's the error here? Unexpected character. Yeah, no worries, but I think that should have been good. Am I absolutely missing something? I don't need the brackets. Can anyone see what I'm missing? This is the if statement. This is totally valid if you only have the single statement after that. Look, that's valid now. That's weird. Yes, Sabin is right. Maybe copying and pasting from YouTube chat did some weird stuff. Let's look. I mean, it looks okay. So let's try this. Let's refresh. Well, let's go Google for it. Redirect, Next.js redirect. Sorry, everybody. From get server side props. Okay. Well, I don't really want to dig through that. So maybe it's this one. Nope. Nope. Get server side. Okay. Maybe it's, let's just copy that. Thanks everybody for helping out. Let's see, redirect. Delete all that. Syntax, right? Return redirect destination /login. Or just send them to the home page, permanent false. Okay, let's go back. Brian, thank you for saying that because I always get a little nervous when it's like live coding, everything's going wrong. So check it out. Dashboard, it sends us immediately back to the homepage. There we go. So that's how you can protect a route from the server side. You could probably clean that up a little bit too. Yeah, cool. If you like the single line syntax. All right, so that's how you can protect a route. Next up here is how to protect an API route. So an API route is going to be over here under Pages, under API. I hope that's large enough. Under API, and let's say this hello.js, which is a default when you start up a Next.js application. Let's say we wanted to protect this. Well, we already saw the tool that we would use for it. We are going to use import get session because this is the server side one that we can use from NextAuth/client. And then in here, we can just const session is equal to get session equals rec. GitHub Copilot's so good. So we're passing in the request into this get session method hook function, sorry. And then it'll go ahead and log us in. So if we have if no session, we can return res.status 400 send unauthorized. Else it'll get to this point and that should be good. So let's go here. Let's go to /API/hello. That shouldn't have happened. Let's see. If no session, return res.status, send unauthorized. I think I missed some syntax here. Pass it in as an object. Refresh. Still no problems. When in doubt, console log. I gotta like send you all stickers or something. You're all so helpful. What's up, Ali? Welcome. Sabin. I'm hoping I'm saying that name wrong. Yes, it returns a promise. Good call. Yeah, I hovered it. It returns a promise. Therefore, we should async await the thing. So refresh. Unauthorized. Thank you, everybody. Gosh, I'm sorry. This is way too many mistakes that I like to make. But thank you all for helping. I really, really appreciate it. You're all awesome. Definitely making this a positive experience. Yeah, so we're able to protect this API route now. And let's see, the session was null when it started because there is no authentication there. So let's test everything that works. Let's go here. We'll click sign in. We're signed in. Now we should be able to see /dashboard. Nice, we're there. And then we should be able to see API/hello. And we are getting the JSON response we expected. If we go back here, we should see, yep, all that information there. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Sabin. A lot of this so far has just been, what, syntax, right? I got a URL wrong. I'm not trying to like highlight my errors, but I got URLs wrong, missed an async await, put the thing on the sign out instead of sign in. So a lot of this is just syntax. But really, if you look at the surface of the code of how much code we had to write, very little places for errors. And as you all demonstrated, really easy to find them, right? Okay, so let's see. We're at 40 minutes in. The next part that I want to talk about is something I hinted at the beginning, and that's bringing your own database. Carlos, thank you for that. It is real life. I promise I put together a demo app for this, and I ran into all these problems then too, and I still ran into them. So, but it's all good. This is still a much easier way to do authentication than rolling your own Passport node server, right? Let's see, Ollie, best way to learn the JS errors is, yeah, doing it on a live stream. Okay, so let's bring a database in. So I'll go to DigitalOcean, sign in here. Ah, and here I am in my DigitalOcean database. Let's go to databases, dashboard. And I have this one right here for Postgres. What you can do though is go create, we'll create a database. And NextAuth supports all of these, which is really cool. I'm going to go with Postgres here. You can start on the $15 a month plan. Pick your region that's closest to you and your users. Name it and create database cluster. Daniel, that's a great comment right there. Let me bring that up in a second. So what you can do is let this spin up. And once you do let it spin up, you can do all this getting started stuff. You can secure your database so you can restrict the inbound connections. Really helpful when you have a droplet or an app that you only want to have access to this database. And then we can continue to do it later. And then we get our connection details right here. So this is our password. This is our username, host name, port, database, SSL mode, all that good stuff. While it's spinning up, I already have a database set up. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to this NextAuth one that I had prepared. And just like we saw, we have our credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my env.env.local. And I'm going to paste all those in. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste that in right here. And I'm going to do it quickly so nobody just like grabs my password and does random stuff. Actually, I'll just move it off screen. Cool. All right, so we're back to here. We have all of those variables in place. Next up is adding a database to NextAuth. So the question earlier, let's do Kaushik's question. We'll have does automatically set cookies to preserve session. So right now, since there is no database or anything, the way that the session is preserved is option number 1, which is JWTs. So JSON Web Tokens, and that should be visible if I go to my app, inspect, we should be able to see it under application. Somewhere in here should be our JSON Web Token. I don't think they did local storage. Yeah, I don't think it's local storage. It might be session. No. Yeah. So it looks like they threw it into the cookies. And it's right there, the session token. This giant thing. Sabin, we should have just had you teach this this tech talk. So, yes, perfect information. It saves the JWT in cookie right here. You can add more to the cookie like information from your NextAuth configuration. So it does option 1, JWTs. It can also do option 2, which is database sessions. And yeah, so let's take a look at what this looks like. So we have our providers in our config. Great questions in chat. Nathalie, I will get to that. So database is going to be an object. And what this looks like right here is I'm just going to go grab all this stuff from my notes. You're essentially just giving it all of the credentials to your database. Cool. So Rob, what do you mean by that? because we have the provider's credentials. Oh, are you saying the credentials provider? Let me talk about that in a second. So let me go here. I'm going to have our database here. I'm going to go over here. Let's sign out. Something happened. Okay, so Rob, let me check on that in a second. Something happened. Let's go look at our error. Postgres package has not been found, so we need to npm install pg. So when we do this, let's go here. Actually, let's npm install pg. So this is the Postgres database package that we can use to interact with a Postgres database. If you put in type MySQL, it'll ask you to install MySQL. Same for MongoDB and the other ones. Start this back up. Bowdy, what theme is this? This is Monokai Pro. Okay, so I had this error in testing and it like would sometimes go away. I just want to try something real quick. I think it will have the error. Okay, so what this is saying is it's an authentication issue. Sorry, let me get to the final one. Authentication issue with Postgres. So we will need to connect to the Postgres database with a certificate. Yeah, hold on, everybody. I see a bunch of questions. So let's try to get this working. So the way to work with this as a certificate is you're going to add this SSL object. And once we have this SSL object, you want the cert. So let me go grab the cert real quick. I'll go in here, download CA certificate. I'll drag this over here. And sorry, I know I'm speeding up, but we are coming up to the end of this. So let me move this into... Brian, yes, this video will be available later. So I'm dropping in my certificate here. This is something that you don't want to commit to your GitHub repo. You can add it as an environment variable later. So I'll go over here and let's just make sure that this is logged, pointed to the right spot. Okay, maybe let me remove that. And Jeng has a great point. npm run dev. I think I did because I had to for the Postgres thing, right? All right, let's give it a shot. Sign in. Nope. Okay, so it does want the SSL cert. Let's bring this back. All right, let's try this out. And internal server error, come on. FS is not defined. Of course it's not because I did fs.read file sync. Come on. All right, we're close. Honest, we're super close to this. Like, doesn't even want to go anymore. Oh, it does. It did. Ha! Okay, so it wanted the SSL certificate to log in, so that's fine. We sent that in. But now we get to test this out because we just used Postgres to do the login, right? And I said earlier that NextAuth is really cool because you are you're the person that gets to manage your user information. And I have Table Plus open, which is a database explorer tool. And check it out. I have under here users. Here's my user. I can't zoom in. Yeah, sorry for the small font. It's a database tool. So yeah, I have my username right here. I have my image, all that stuff. You can see the sessions that are attached to said user. So how many times they've logged in, when you can see their session token, and now the session is stored in the database. And you can still go back to JWT session storage if you like. You just set that up in your settings. And then under accounts, here is the interesting part. You have OAuth with a provider of GitHub, and you can see all of their like GitHub IDs and all that stuff right there. So that's what I mean by saying you are in charge of your data. You're not sending your user information over to somebody else like Auth0, and all that stuff. Where are we at? 51 minutes in. So that was a good amount of stuff. And again, thank you everybody for helping out. Let me look and see if I missed any questions. Daniel, what would be interesting is how you'd connect the social login to user data in the application database, social ID to database user. The docs actually have a really great write-up on this. Is it under FAQ? They do a great write-up on here. When I sign in with another account with the same email, our account's not linked automatically. They do a great write-up. Essentially what they're saying is authenticating that way is not secure because some social providers, they don't require you to verify your email. So for this to work, they would ask you to verify your email across all social providers, which is they can't enforce. So definitely give this a read through. They do a good explanation of that. Paste that link in chat. Let's see. Brian, I am using Table Plus to check out the database stuff, the little elephant icon. Miguel says, in the accounts table, how do you differentiate between users versus accounts? Yeah, I found that confusing at first. It seems like accounts is specifically for the social provider and users are just for like basic user information. It sounds like to me that the way that they're linked is this user ID over here. I think it just so happened to be that they both ended up being ID of 4, which I guess call it bad luck. But yeah, the user ID right there, I think is how they link it, if that was your question. Sarab asked earlier, the provider credentials. So if I go to providers and go down here, credentials is one of them. Credentials is an interesting one because out of the box, Next.js really focuses on social authentication. But if you have, like, let's say username and password and your own specific database, the way that this works is you go in and you're supposed to be able to, yeah, here we go. Here's your credentials. You basically tell it what type of credentials you have, username and password, and then you give it a function to say how do you authorize that user against your data source. A little bit more setup. That's why I didn't really touch on it in this talk. I actually had the Google social provider planned for this talk, but it seems like we ran out of time, but that's all good. There was a question earlier also of refresh tokens and expiration. Under tutorials, right here, there is refresh token rotation over on the right over here. If you click that, scroll down. There's a lot that you can do to, excuse me. There's a lot you can do when you're customizing your NextAuth object. So let's say providers is here. Callbacks is something we didn't touch on, but something you can do. So these all run when like a JWT is successfully parsed. There's callbacks for like sign in, there's callbacks for sign out. And what this does right here is it basically says when you go grab your JSON Web Token, you need to check if the date is expired on the token. And if it is, then you go get a new token. So that's one way to do it. And again, if you are having trouble with this package, as you saw in this talk itself, I had some problems. Authentication is not an easy thing. Definitely read through the docs. There's so much good information in the docs, even just side notes where they just explain random concepts of authentication. Really great open source package. I highly recommend checking out the docs. But yeah, I think that'll wrap it up here. We made it through, everybody. Authentication is never a simple subject. It's always going to be something that you want to take care of. You want to be as secure as possible. So thank you, everybody, for joining up. Thank you, everybody, for helping point out some mistakes that I made. Lewis, good question. The docs recommend, well, the package itself stores it in, let me go look, under application, under cookies, and it stores it over here under as a cookie, the session token. And then the session token will go ahead and go back to like grabbing your user information. As far as security goes on this, you'd have to read up on the docs. I haven't really read into that too much. I wonder if they have like an FAQ as far as security. Yeah. And also that question probably isn't specific to NextAuth. It's more of a, are cookies safe to store tokens or session tokens in, right? Right on, Carlos. Thank you for joining. Miguel, does NextAuth interact well with React? I don't think it does. Somewhere in the docs it says no, because let me show you this real quick. That get session, which is a server-side function, doesn't really have a place in React. It doesn't make sense in React. You could probably try the use session in React, but I'm not sure how that works out. It would be interesting to find out. Yeah, Lewis, thanks for joining. Carlos, thanks for joining. Let's wrap it up here. Jeng, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for the help. Sabin, thank you so much for the help. Babatunde, thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody being here. That was a fun one. Will the code be open sourced? I don't really have... I'm not sure if I should push this to GitHub because it's so sloppy. The Next.js docs have much better, like full-size sample apps for you to check out. Nathalie, you're very welcome. Sabin, see you next week. We also have cloud chats on Thursday and tomorrow, which is going to happen tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow on this YouTube channel. What are we trying next? So I have my next 3 talks scheduled. I don't have the dates, but the next 3 are what's new in app platform, our platform as a service. And the next 2 I'm excited for because I love these topics, getting started with React and getting started and being productive in VS Code. Eric, thanks so much for joining. Mukesh, thanks for joining. Daniel, some more authentication and the callbacks. That's a great option. Token rotation, also a great move. Yeah, lots of fun. Right on. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you so much for helping me out. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you next time.